G'day, Space Detectives. Today we are looking at Sol 552 and we have this set of images from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the Curiosity Rover as usual. Not always, but most of my videos are about the Curiosity Rover. And here's the information at the bottom of the page. Oh, hang on. Top of the page, sorry. Images for Sol 552, and it's not a huge set of images. I recommend you look at a lot of these, especially these darker ones near the top here. There's about 6 of them. And there's some interesting stuff in them. A lot of these don't have anything much in to see and are almost blank. Just a bit of sand and a few little pebbles. So we're not going to look at those. I've got a folder up here. I'm going to show you what I've found first, and then I'll backtrack and show you where to look. But the main image we're looking at is this one here, and 1 or 2 of these other darker ones. And we've got a ridgeline at the back, and another smaller ridgeline near the front of the image, near the bottom. And I'm going to show you now in the folder what we've got. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is this little thing, which I thought was really interesting. And we have a pile of kind of tiny little pebbles and kind of mud rock and sand here, with what looks like a little entrance here. There's a strange object here, which may just be some sort of mineral or rock, don't know, lightly coloured, and what looks like a little bug just here. And even in the raw image, you can see it quite clearly, but you do need to enlarge the image to see it, like I've done here. And I've taken a clip. This is raw, and this is an enhanced clip here. And what I've done is I've really brightened it up because we're in shadow here. So when you're looking at things that are in shadow, you really need to brighten the images a lot more, and maybe add a bit more contrast and quite a lot of brightness in this case. And you'll see this, and this to me looks a bit like some kind of insect with a kind of head there. You can see a head and a body and legs. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see possibly see 5 legs there. But because it's in shadow, we're not seeing a great deal of detail. And when you zoom in, it doesn't really get any sharper. But you can see what look like legs here, and a body and a head. Could it possibly be some kind of bug, like a beetle or something similar? Maybe, maybe not. It may be none of the above. It may just be some gold mineral that's stuck to the side of this. It could even be a sea creature. This may have been underwater thousands of years ago, and it's all dried out. And this is a lake bed, so a lot of the things we're seeing may be marine fossils. This could be a marine fossil. But there's also this weird thing here. I don't really know what that is. And is it possible that this could be some kind of beetle that's crawled out of this little entrance here and then has decided to climb up the side here to get up here into the sunlight and bask in the sun? Who knows? Could it be some other type of creature? Could it just, I don't know. Leave a comment below. Not really sure what to call this one. I think I'm going to call it the golden rock beetle or something for now, just for want of a better name, but I really don't know what it is. I'm just kind of guessing, really. We can never be 100% sure about any of this stuff on Mars, of course, because we don't know really if a lot of these images are completely 100% genuine. I think most of them are genuine, but a lot of them are downgraded and obfuscated, as I've shown before. So who knows about that one. There was also this thing. This is on the ridgeline further to the back. There's a row of kind of rocks and what looks like a wall that's been destroyed. And there's this, what looks like another statue head. Not a lot of detail to see in this one, apart from the eye. And you can even see the eye in the raw image there, see that? With a darker part in the middle, like a lot of them seem to have. Now, in some previous videos, I did mention the fact that the sand on Mars, or the soil, is very easy to mold into shapes. In other words, you can actually just push it together under pressure and it will stick together like concrete. So it would be very easy to do sculpture on Mars. Unlike the clay we use on Earth, which has got a high water content and then has to be fired and dried out. You could actually make clay or use the clay soils on Mars and just squash it together, compact it, and make it into shapes, and it would turn into a type of concrete. Because of the very high sulfur content, it actually acts like a glue, and the material sticks together. So it is possible to make stuff on Mars, and this is probably what they were doing. I don't think all these things are necessarily carved. I think the crude shapes were actually hand molded and compacted together and left to dry into a hard concrete-like material, and then finer detail was added afterwards. And the reason why I think some of these things have eyes, where you can actually see different pupil colours, like blue, a lot of them got blue eyes, and you can see eye detail. I think they were using different types of clay. There's lots of different coloured sand in the area. Some of it's blue, some of it's brown, some of it's kind of reddish, some of it's yellow, some of it's almost white. So you could actually get quite a good palette if you were making sculpture on Mars and make things with different colour parts to them, rather than painting them. But it is also possible they were painted. So you may want to go back to one of my previous videos. There's this one here, which is called Animal Sculpture Found on Mars, Building Structures with Martian Soil, that's called. And that actually goes into some detail and shows some research that's been done by other scientists and stuff about the actual soil on Mars and how easy it would be to make concrete out of it and build things like structures and stuff like that. But of course it would also be very good for making animal shapes and head shapes and other things in sculpture, like you would with clay. But this doesn't really need to dry out, it just needs to set for about an hour or two, and you'd have a perfectly hard concrete-like material. So do check that out, it's really interesting, that, and I do show lots of other research there as well to back up my theory on that. So it's not just, I'm not just pulling it out my ass like some people seem to think I am. Okay, some of the trolls out there. I do the research, I check everything, I provide links to everything, so this isn't all made up. A lot of this is down to interpretation, of course, so that's fine. And you don't have to agree with everything I say. I may often be wrong with a lot of these things, and that's fine. It's all part of the game of research, and I do encourage people to comment, because often I see things differently, or I completely miss things, and some of you out there see things straight away that I miss, so that's all good. So the more people that comment, the better, and the more input you have, the better, as far as I'm concerned. There's also this thing which looks a bit like a skull, but it's so dilapidated. You've got two eye sockets, a nose there, a mouth, well, cheekbones which are kind of all broken up, and some teeth sticking up there with a jawbone here, but it's so dilapidated that it may not be, but it could be. In fact, it kind of looks better at that angle. I tilted it round a bit, as you can see, but it's so dilapidated, I'm not really going to put any money on this one. There are many, many better examples than that I found recently and in the past. So I'll put clips of these in a minute at the end of the video as well, so you can have a proper look at these and pause and have a look and zoom in and take a screenshot if you like. There was also this one on the ridgeline at the back, which is rather odd, and this is another example of one that seems to have blue detail in the eyes. A lot of them do, and if these are carvings or sculptures, then they may have used a different type of clay for the eye part. Simple as that. And that could explain why a lot of these things seem to have blue eyes, whereas if they were painted, I'm sure the paint would have eroded away. So there we are, but you can see a clear mouth with a chin there, an almost dog-like nose with nostrils, and a very kind of rectangular looking eye socket, which you can even see in the raw image here. If you zoom in, let your eyes adjust, you'll see that rectangle there. You can see a straight line coming down here and a line going across there, okay? And you can see the nostrils and mouth. Not very clear, I know, but these things are in quite heavy shadow, a lot of them, and it's the shadows that give away the detail. So when you brighten these images up, you have to be very careful not to lose all the shadow. I've almost lost a lot of the shadow here, because I wanted to see into this area, see the eye detail that we have here and the nose detail. So there we have it. So you've got to be very careful when you treat these images, not to make them look worse than they already are. And a lot of them are quite bad to start with. And these dark shadowy ones particularly need to be carefully treated, and the right level of brightness is crucial, otherwise you end up with a complete mess. Here's the Gigapan I made, and this is completely raw, and if any of you have got my app, you can download some software to make Gigapans on there. If you look on the research page, if you haven't got my app, it's totally free, and there's loads and loads of free software to do all this with. There's always a link in the description for my app and any of the other stuff that I show. Okay, here's a Gigapan I did. Now what I normally do with a Gigapan, this is completely raw, is I will go to adjust and color and then fade correction, and that instantly brightens it up and gets rid of most of that orange filter straight away. I set to number 1, and there we are. It's much better to look at already, and now you can see into the shadows and see some detail in here. And that statue, I think, was over this side here, but it's still a bit dark. That one there. So let's brighten it again. Let's go to brightness. Up by 17. That's quite harsh, but it needs it. There we are. There's the mouth there, chin. Just about make out that eye. Nice eye shape with a circle in the middle. And the nose there. Not a great deal of detail there. The other one is further over to the left here. My graphics card is struggling a bit here, and it's up here. Okay. The one with the sort of puggish dog-like nose. There we are, it's the nose, the mouth. But because I've really brightened it up, let's get rid of that brightness. You've lost some detail there. So I've darkened it back again. You can see that bluish square eye almost there, kind of rectangular. You can see the mouth, you can see the nose. There we are. And there was also this thing down here, which I showed you a minute ago, which is the little bug-like thing, the golden rock bug or whatever, beetle, and you can just see those legs sticking out. Okay, so you can see I haven't done much. Let's go to the raw clip. There we are, it's the raw image. You can still see that detail, but because it's dark, you can't see it very well. So you really have to brighten these things up to see what's going on, like I've done there. There we are. So this is really quite simple to do. You don't have to be an expert at Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop. This is actually a very basic version of a pre-Photoshop kind of program, I think, called Paint Shop Pro. And you can also get this free if you've got my free app in the software, free software downloads on the research page. There's loads and loads of free software you can use. And there's no need to spend money on a lot of this stuff. A lot of it's freely available. But there was that little bug thing. So lots of stuff to see here, and like I said, you need to be very careful when you brighten these up, not to go too far, because you will destroy detail. This is from the previous video that I did, and managed to find this clip here of a head carving in Chile on Earth, a statue head, which is very similar to this in shape. It has real similarities. It's very crude, as is this, and it's probably about the same size as well, I would say. This is quite large. This is a few feet, probably 2 or 3 feet high by 2 or 3 feet wide. I don't know exactly. So these aren't very huge. And incidentally, I mean, this is from my previous video. I didn't point this out. There's a perfect right angle part here to this statue here. Absolutely perfectly right angle. So this seems to have been a wall along here, part of a building, with statue heads and carvings along it, and it's been destroyed. A lot of it's buried, probably underneath. These might even have bodies underneath, but as I've said before, a lot of these don't. A lot of these carvings are just heads, and they do seem to be have been rather obsessed with heads and faces, the Martians. I think they must have been a very artistic bunch of people, some of them at least, and were kind of obsessed with carving and shaping animals and faces and heads and things like that, as I have shown in many examples before. So I just thought that was interesting, because I thought that was very similar, the thing on Earth here. It's not the same. The eye sockets on this thing are very rectangular for some reason, but that may have been a particular style down to the person who made it. You've got the hair at the top coming down here, hair detail there. But there may have also been eyes stuck on here which have fallen off, like the moai of Easter Island that had big eyes stuck on them. And only a few of them actually have the eyes still on them now. Most of them have fallen off. So that may be the case. They may have been big eyes stuck on there which have come off. So that is a possibility. An open mind is required when viewing images from other planets, as I've said many times before, because one day our very survival may depend on it. I'll quickly show you this. That was in the previous video, and I didn't speak about this because I found it right near the end of the video as I was making the video, and I'd already done the narration, so I just shoved it in at the end like I normally do with all the enhancements and the clips that I've got. And this is only a few inches long. This looks like a reptilian skull. Very narrow, very pointed chin, a row of teeth there, 2 holes instead of a proper nasal cavity there. There's just 2 holes, one there and one there. 2 very small eyes, which also look blue. They've got a bluish tint to them. Okay, and all we got to do is enhance the image slightly, and that blue really pops out. So it's definitely there. So there are lots of skulls, specimens, and carvings, and all sorts of weird things. Incidentally, if you're interested, I am a portrait, or I used to be a portrait artist. I haven't done any for a couple of years now. If you want to look at some of my artwork, you can come to artbristol.com. There is a link to this on my channel page. There's a quick link to it if you want to link to that on the information page or contact page. There's a whole list of websites. There's artbristol.com. You've got some of my portraits here. So you can check out a lot of my portraits on this site. There's like animations of portraits I've done, where you can actually watch the different stages and everything. A lot of these are more cartoonish or caricatures. There's loads of weird stuff here. And there's like fantasy art that I've done, illustration. I was trained as an illustrator, and I did want to be actually an archaeological illustrator at college, but unfortunately I had a spine injury and I didn't finish my college degree or anything like that, so I didn't get to do that, unfortunately. But here's an illustration I did of a dead spider on Mars years ago, with a little person there who's just blown it up, just shot it and blown some of the legs off. Incidentally, that was an actual real spider that I found in my paint box at home. It crawled into my paint box and just died. So I got a magnifying glass and looked at it really carefully and lit it up with a torch, and then drew a picture of it and then coloured it orange to make it look like Mars. So I've always had a thing about Mars ever since I was a kid, and I've always been fascinated by it. And there's lots of illustrations here of things. There's a whole series of these illustrations I did about Mars, actually. There's a clip of one with a kind of giant spider crab kind of tank kind of thing. This thing here. So you might want to check out some of this stuff. It's pretty crazy, some of it. It's like a giant spider crab with a kind of like turret on top with a cannon and all that sort of thing. That's what it would look like if it's separated from the body. So I always had this sort of these ideas to illustrate a book and do sort of illustrations and stuff like that. So there we are. So if you want to check those out, you're welcome to. I don't really sell stuff from these anymore. These I did years ago, these websites, artbristol.com and joewhiteart.com. And there's loads and loads of stuff here. Some of it's quite crazy and funny. There's like cartoons and stuff like that, and caricatures. You might like the caricatures that I've done. I've done lots of famous people and not so famous people. There's Tony Blair and some TV people from the UK. There's Saddam Hussein there. There's a load of cartoons here that I've done over the years, so you may want to check some of these out. There's Simon Cowell, a caricature with this kind of sneery kind of look in his eye. So there we are. Check it out. Please leave a comment if you can. If you can't leave a comment, leave an emoji like a thumbs up or something. That would be great, because that really helps this channel. And the videos don't get pushed by YouTube unless they get a certain number of likes or comments, okay? So you've got to get over the sort of 200 mark, I think, before you get a video pushed. They've changed a lot of the algorithms recently on YouTube and made it much harder for people like me. And I'm sure my videos are being censored in some way, or at least not being shown to other people. Okay, so do check out that previous video if you haven't checked it out already. We've got this sort of row of statues. I'll just play that through a little bit. It's got a whole bunch of stuff here, and they've got a whole row of statues on the ridgeline behind, which are just there. There's the raw image. You can even see them in the raw image there. You can see them. A bit vague, but as I said, if you're enhancing these images and they're in shadow, you've got to push the brightness and contrast quite heavily, but carefully. And these things will pop out, okay? So thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you soon.